It is with a heavy heart that I report that Justice League has flopped. What should have been DC's proudest moment, a cinematic event on par with the Avengers, is quickly becoming a box office catastrophe. Sure, there have been bigger duds than Justice League, but never one from a property this well known with such high expectations. Today I'm going to break down the opening weekend numbers and explain why I think this film bombed. In its opening weekend, Justice League earned an estimated $96 million. On its own, this is a decent number. However, let's add some context. This is the lowest opening in the DC film universe, lower than Wonder Woman earlier this summer. It's a little more than half of what Batman v Superman opened to last year. It is less than half than both of the Avengers films, and this was supposed to be an Avengers level success. There is no justifiable reason that the freaking Justice League should have opened in the range of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, a team that absolutely no one in the general audience knew about. Given how other blockbusters such as the Harry Potter and Hunger Games sequels have performed the weekend before Thanksgiving, and factoring in the box office runs of the previous DCEU films, we can assume that Justice League will have a multiplier of somewhere between 2.4 and 2.7. That would give us a domestic box office run between 230 million and 260 million, well below Batman v Superman's 330 million, and over 200 million less than both Avengers films. Assume a similar drop-off in the international box office, which we are seeing this opening weekend, although we don't have those numbers yet, and we're looking at a total box office somewhere between 700 million and 750 million. BVS made 873 million. Most recent reports suggested that Justice League's budget post-reshoot was around 300 million, assuming the marketing budget was similar to BVS's 150 million, and total costs come out to around 450 million. Deadline reported Friday that the break-even point for Justice League, the point at which all costs are recouped for the studio before a profit can be made, was between 700 and 750 million. So basically at this moment it looks like Justice League will not turn a profit for Warner Brothers, and that's even assuming that the reported break-even point is accurate. It could very easily be over 800 million, not that Warner Brothers would say at this point, and I have no doubt that Warner Brothers was expecting Justice League to gross over $1 billion worldwide, an expectation they also had for last year's Batman v Superman. If you told me earlier this year that Justice League would gross less worldwide than the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean film, I would have laughed in your face. For all intents and purposes, this is a disaster for Warner Brothers. And now, a list of films with a better opening weekend than Justice League. 65% of the MCU, It, 3 Transformers quote-unquote films, every Hunger Games film, every Twilight sequel, this jerk-off, 3 Fast 3 Furiouses, Minions, f***ing Minions. Yeah, those mumbling ADHD Oompa Loompa rejects made more money in its first 3 days than The World's Finest and Friends. So now I want to give my thoughts on why I think this film flopped. Number 1, it's garbage. Number 2, its predecessors were garbage. Number 3, the lack of Superman in both the film's marketing, which I'll get to in a moment, and the film's plot. Let me elaborate. Superman was killed at the end of Batman v Superman. That was a bad idea. I knew 18 months ago that it would create a problem here because you cannot have a Justice League movie where Superman is not a featured player. Seriously, who at Warner Brothers thought that the general audience, not the hardcore comic book fans who are of course going to turn out, but the general audience, the people who really make or break a film's success, who at Warner Brothers thought that the general audience would be interested in a Justice League film that does not feature Superman front and center? He is in this film for what amounts to an extended cameo. Number 4, the Rotten Tomatoes stunt. Now, you may have heard of this by now. Rotten Tomatoes did not publish any reviews of Justice League until 5 hours before the first screenings. This is unprecedented in the history of the site. It's incredibly clear they were trying to cover up for the film's poor critical reception. Is it because Warner Brothers owns 30% of Rotten Tomatoes? Probably. Number 5. Thor Ragnarok released just weeks prior to Justice League to critical acclaim in a huge opening weekend. Thor quite literally stole Justice League's thunder. 6. Truly awful marketing. This poster makes my eyes hurt. These trailers don't tell me a single thing about the story, and have I mentioned the lack of Superman? Nothing about this film's marketing campaign had the urgency or sense of importance that Batman v Superman's marketing campaign had. Number 7. Have I mentioned this film is garbage? Now granted, it's not as bad as Batman v Superman, but it still has a lot of flaws, more than I have time to go into here. There's some good moments, mainly character interactions between the abysmal action, for which I have to thank Joss Whedon. So, where does the DCEU go from here? Aquaman just finished filming and releases next December, Shazam and Wonder Woman 2 are in various stages of production, and a whopping 11 other films are in active development. The Zack Snyder era of the DCEU is, I can guarantee you, over at this point. The new head honcho is Jeff Johns, a longtime writer for DC Comics and their television series, both animated and live action. He is essentially DC's answer to Kevin Feige over at Marvel. The question is it too late for Johns to regain the audience's trust? We shall see next December with Aquaman. Until then, DC will just have to wonder what might have been with Justice League. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. Please let's have a conversation in the comments below. What did you think of Justice League? What do you think about its box office performance? Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already, and stay tuned for more here on TV Junkie.